Oh, you want me to tell you the worst thing that I've done? Nope, I won't tell you that. But I will tell you the worst thing that ever happened to me. The time has come to tell the tale, to tell a ghost story. At least I think it is a ghost story. Nevertheless, it was horrifying. And the worst thing that ever happened to me. Are you ready, gentlemen? But first, my dear friends, we've known each other for almost all of our lives, and we've been through a lot. And this little meeting of ours every Friday to tell ghost stories is something I don't think I could live without. So, with the finest imported Swedish vodka, I propose a toast to the Chowder Society. Cheers, my friends. Now for the story that I'm about to tell you. This took place a long time ago. I was about 1920, I think. I have just been finishing school and was a full-fledged English teacher when I got this little job out on the countryside in a little school in a little village outside of Derry, Maine, and I was enthusiastic. I had never had a job before, and I was eager to teach the children what I had learned. Anyway, it was a small village, everybody knew each other, and I was welcomed by most. The priest, everyone loved that I was coming to the village. I was from, well, Milburn, and Milburn is quite a big town compared to that little village. Anyway, I got into class first day, and the first thing that struck my eyes was two little children sitting in the back, and I did like so that everybody had to introduce themselves, and when it came to those small little children who were very pale, dirty, malnourished, one might say, the girl was pretty clever and articulate, but the boy refused to tell me his name at first, so I continued to, shall we say, encourage him, and it turned out his name was Fenny Bate. And I asked where they lived, and they lived in a cabin out in the forest a bit from the village. And I automatically become fond of those two children. I don't know why. They seem so vulnerable, I think. Yes, vulnerable is the word I'm looking for. But the other children didn't like them. I think they were afraid of them somehow. And they mocked them and called them the crazy Bates. You know, children can be mean sometimes. Anyway, I was about to do home calls for all the children. I would visit their homes and introduce myself and tell their parents that I was the new teacher in the village. And everything went pretty smoothly. Everyone was really very nice towards me, and but I asked directions from one of the villagers to the Bates family home. and they warned me not to go there. But they didn't say why. But I was confused, because why would they warn me to go to that place? But they gave me the general direction, so after school, when the kids have gone home, I sat and checked some books, and I thought, well, let's pay the Bates a little visit. So I went to the cabin, and it was a bit from the actual village, but the house was run down, and I couldn't find anyone at first. It was completely empty. I didn't see the little girl, but when I was about to go home again, the little boy, Fenny, greeted me in the woods. And he said, "You shouldn't be here, because he will see you, and he doesn't like visitors." Now, I didn't quite understood if it was his father he meant, so I asked him, "Is it your father?" And he said, "No, it's my brother, Gregory Bate." And I told him, "Well, I would very much like to meet your father, because I want to introduce myself." And he said that his father was dead, and that he lived with his brother and sister. So I asked where the mother was, and she was apparently dead too. Now, I didn't pay much attention to that. I just asked where the brother was, and he said he was not home, so I turned around and went back to the house which I was renting at the time. But it's getting awfully stuffy in here and warm. What do you say we have a little beer? Yes. So, my friends, where was I? Yes. Now, for every passing day, the little boy looked more and more unhealthy, more pale, more dirty. Same with the sister, of course, but at least she talked. He just seemed to be more and more, how shall I say, blank. Like he disappeared more and more. And some days he didn't even come to school. She didn't either, but since she looked a little bit more healthy than him, she wasn't my main concern. Then one day, I was up at the church, picking flowers to put at my desk. And I saw the preacher attending some graves. So I walked up to him and I told him, or asked him, about the Bate family. And he looked really scared, really scared. And I asked him what the problem really was, and that he could be frank with me about this matter. So he invited me in, and he poured me a brandy, and he said that the story he was about to tell was utterly frightening, and that I wouldn't utter a word to anyone about it. You see, Gregory Bate had worked at the school as a janitor, taking care of things. And one day he was apparently meeting a girl whose name nobody really know. Mobley, I think her last name was. She was a very beautiful girl, and everybody found it very strange that a, well, simple man like Gregory would find such a beautiful girl. One day he was up on the roof taking care of things when he was climbing down. The ladder fell, and Gregory Bate fell with the ladder, crushing his skull against a rock, and died instantly. Now, the priest took me out to the graveyard, and he showed me the newly dug grave. It had happened just 3 weeks ago, prior to when I came, I think. And they said that the children lived with the Mobley woman up at the house. But they have also been sighting of Gregory Bate walking at night among the houses in the village, and that's what made everybody so afraid. They said that I had seen him even during daytime, and that he was some kind of a revenant that had come back to look after Fanny and his sister. So I didn't, of course, believe it. I was a modern man. I had just finished high school. Why would I believe old fairy tales about revenants and ghosts and zombies? Nevertheless, it intrigued me. So, the next day I decided to pay the Fenny Bate and his sister another visit. Now I was planning on going while it was still daylight. I'm not a superstitious man, or I wasn't, but somehow it felt safer to go during the day. But somehow things dragged on, so it was almost dusk when I started my journey through the forest up to the Bate house. And now what happens next is almost like a bad dream. I came up to the house, and when I was about to knock, I felt someone staring down my neck. So I turned around, and there was this big, enormous, huge man. He was bald, and his skin was like ebony. All, I don't know. His eyes was like silver spheres in his head. He had no pupils at all. It was like silver balls. And he stared at me. And in my head I could hear, "You are not welcome here. Go away." So I stumbled backwards. I almost fell. I ran out of that place. The next following days, the kids were not in school at all. Then one morning I came to my job as usual, and the priest met me, and he said that Fenny Bate had passed away during the night, and that he was in the mortuary. That night I went halfway up to the house again, when the same man stopped me in my tracks, still looking all emotionless, still staring at me with those silver eyes. But this time he had Fenny with him at his side, and the little boy had the same eyes, and he was staring into my soul. Then when I turned around, she was there. She was beautiful, dark, long hair, dark eyes, and she stared at me, and she smiled. And once again a horrible feeling of dread and disaster flew over me, and I ran off. That night, around, I think it was 12 o'clock, I had just gone to bed, and I was staring out in the darkness, thinking about what would happen that day, thinking about Fenny Bate and his brother's dead, soulless eyes staring at me, when I heard a sound. And I saw her, and now I recognized the face. I had seen it before. A smell of rot and decay filled the room, and I could feel that she was not what she appeared. She looked at me and smiled and laughed. Then she looked at me again and spoke, and she said she had given them what they always wanted, eternal life, and that she would turn my life into a living nightmare if I didn't leave. The feeling of dread, the feeling of despair That awful feeling. It was horrifying. Horrifying. Oh, I'm okay. The problem is, my friends, that face. It's someone we used to know. I know I had seen that face before. And my friends, the preacher of the village gave me a photography of the same woman taken 100 years ago. Look. It's her. It's her. Don't you recognize her? Don't you recognize her? It's her. Her. It's her. Eva Galley. It's her. The same girl we dated when we were young. And the worst thing is, I've seen her here in Melbourne. I saw her yesterday at the local grocery store. She has come back. She has come back. And she has Fenny and Gregory Bate with her. She transformed them into the same creature that she is. They're out to get us, and they are out there now. So please, my friends, be careful, because she's coming for us. She's coming for us. She's supposed to be dead. We killed her. It was an accident, but we killed her. And now she's back. We sunk her in that swamp, but somehow she came back. She came back from the dead. It started with Gregory and Fenny Bate. Thanks God the sister got away, but I couldn't save Fenny. And now she's in Melbourne. She's coming for us, and I don't know what to do, where to go, who to ask for help, who can help us. Is there anyone who can help us? How do you defend yourself against death itself? Perhaps it can't be done. Perhaps we are doomed.